Good morning, students. Let us continue with our next topic related to Unit 3, that is Infrastructure Security. This is Chapter 3 in the book which we are studying related to Tim. He is the author, and this is basically a subtopic in security issues in cloud computing. Let us see the outline for today's session. So, we will be focusing more on infrastructure security, and in which we will be considering 4 factors as listed here. First one is ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of the data when considered the network level, ensuring the proper access control, ensuring the availability of the internet facing resources, replacing the established model of network, zones and tiers, and network level mitigation. Let us see how things are handled at the network level, and followed by certain assignments related to this topic. So, infrastructure security is very important when specifically we are using the infrastructure as a service of the public cloud, and the cloud provider also has to provide various security standards basically to see that the data and other resources are secure. It is observed that private clouds are more secure as compared to public clouds. So, public clouds are basically having more of attacks because it is open to various different types of users and different types of attacks also. So, some of the attacks could be DDoS attack, you have DNS poisoning attacks, prefixing attacks, misconfiguration attacks. We will be studying about these in the forthcoming session. So, let us see first the factors which are important for risk and which and how they will be mitigated. So, these are the risks listed. These are 4 factors which the author is focusing on. First, it is ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of the organization's data when it is in transit. When the data is moving from the public cloud, or it is moving towards the public cloud. So, it is to or from the public cloud provider. Then ensuring proper access control, that is authentication, authorization and auditing to all the resources that are being used at the public cloud providers level. So, these factors I have already studied, but let us see how they can be managed at the infrastructure level. Then we have studied about availability also. So, now let us see how to ensure the availability of internet facing resources in the public cloud that are being used by the organization or have already been assigned to the organization by the public cloud providers. And then finally, replacing the established model of network zones and tiers with the domains. So, we will be focusing on these 4 factors, and we will be separating it out individually and trying to see the different case studies also, how these factors has affected the cloud environment since more than a decade. So, first let us see ensuring data confidentiality and integrity. So, we have studied about data confidentiality and integrity, which data confidentiality can be managed in the network by using the the encryption techniques, and integrity can be managed by using the secure digital signature techniques. So, this is one of the case studies which happened in Amazon Web Services basically, and there was a vulnerability reported in December 2008, that was literally 12 years back. So, in a blog post, the author detailed basically about the flaw, and this flaw was in the digital signature algorithm that was used for making queries, which is also known as REST, and the requests were basically sent to Amazon SimpleDB, that is database, to Amazon EC2, that is Elastic Cloud Computing Cloud, or Amazon Simple Queue Services, that is termed as SQS, over HTTP. This flow was basically where the data could be changed. They had the issues of data confidentiality. So, although this could be resolved by using HTTPS instead of using HTTP, this would have, as I said, it would have solved the issue by using HTTPS. That is a secure protocol over the internet. So, it could mitigate the integrity risk, but users were still using HTTP instead of HTTPS, and they face these issues, and this is going to be an increased risk if you use HTTP over the internet. So, students do focus on using HTTPS so that the data you are sending on the net is not modified. So in this case, the data could be altered in the transit without the user's knowledge. So same thing can happen with you. So be careful. So please focus on using HTTPS over the internet, which is very secure. Then let us see about ensuring proper access control. Now this is another example which was related to IP reuse, right? That is termed as issue of reused or reassigned IP addresses. This is again a very common problem and had many issues few years back. So cloud providers basically have limited IP addresses. So they do not sufficiently age the IP addresses when they are no longer needed for one customer. They immediately assign it to someone else. So this in the long term can create problems as reported by the various users. So addresses are usually reassigned and reused by other customers as they become available. So this is reassigned by the cloud service provider to various other customers so they can gain more profit. So IP addresses basically are very finite in quantity and they are billable assets. So as they want to make more business, they will assign it immediately to someone else. So from a customer security perspective, the persistence of IP address basically that are no longer is in use can present a problem. Right? So problems like they would be in the cache, right? DNS cache. So these are reachable to other users also. So a customer can't assume that network access to its resources is terminated upon the release of its IP addresses. So a customer, when he is using the network or accessing the network, he cannot assume that the IP addresses are terminated once they are released. So there is necessarily a lag of time between the change of an IP address in DNS and the clearing of that state in the DNS caches. So these IP addresses do remain in the DNS cache and they can create havocs. So this means that even though addresses might have been changed, as I said, the now old address are still available in cache and therefore they still allow users to reach these non-existent resources because these resources were assigned to the old people. Now they are assigned to new people through the new RI. So they are still accessible. So this is one of the major issues of ensuring proper access control, especially when you are using the IP addresses again. The issue of non-aged IP address and unauthorized network access to resources applies to even the cloud providers' internal networks when the consumers are using and the assignment of non-routable IP addresses are done. So for management purposes, the resources must be accessible within the cloud provider's network via a private addressing method. So private addressing method remains very important technique for proper access control. So some of the other products are also emerging into the market and they might help alleviate the problems of IP address reuse. But these providers are not providing them directly. The users have to use third-party products to basically solve their problems or the cloud providers practice are charging them more for these such services. So but unless the cloud providers offer these products as managed services, it will be beneficial for the customers. Customers are still paying for yet another third-party product and basically to solve the problem that the cloud providers practices have created for them. So it is the cloud providers problems that are carried over to the consumer's environment. So next is ensuring the availability of internet-facing resources. Availability has always been one of the major factors for security. So like for example, we can see BGP, prefix hijacking technique. So that is basically the falsification of network layer reachability information. And this provides the best example for such type of risk factor, which is termed as third risk factor. So prefix hijacking involves announcing an autonomous system address space that belongs to someone else's without the specific permission of that specific person. So such announcement often occur because of configuration mistakes, which is a very common thing in a cloud environment, but that misconfiguration may still affect the availability of cloud-based resources. So the announcements have to be made properly. The configurations have to be made properly. So this is one of the best examples that happened in Pakistan in February 2008 as listed by the author, when Pakistan Telecom made an error by announcing a dummy route for YouTube to its own telecommunication partner PCCW. This is the telecommunication partner which is based in Hong Kong, and the intent basically was to block YouTube within Pakistan because they were focusing on some blasphemous videos. That is, these videos were something that was against God and all, against certain religious views. So these were hosted on the site, on the Pakistan's site, and they wanted to block the YouTube. But it so happened that YouTube was globally unavailable for 2 hours. So one has to manage these such type of misconfigurations properly. Then we have another prefix hijacking due to deliberate attacks. So this is less common than the misconfigurations which happen, but it is still occurring and can block certain accesses to the data which is in the cloud. DNS attack is another example of problems that are associated with such factor, that is the third risk factor of ensuring the availability of internet facing resources. So there are several forms of DNS attacks to worry about with respect to cloud computing. Let us see about that. So DNS attacks are not new and are not deliberately related to use of cloud computing. The use with DNS and cloud computing is an increase in the organization's risk at the network level because of the increased external DNS querying, reducing the effectiveness of split horizon DNS configurations, along with some increased number of organizational personnel being more independent or dependent on the network security to ensure the availability of cloud provided resources being used. So DNS attacks are very common and have happened many a times. So DNS cache poisoning is one of the major issues that are faced. So DNS cache poisoning attacks is another form of attack where a DNS server is tricked into accepting information that is incorrect. So there are variants of cache poisoning attack which include redirect the target's domain name server, that is termed as NS name server, redirecting the NS record to another target domain and responding before the real NS, that is called as DNS forgery, happens. So denial of service, that is termed as DOS, or distributed denial of service, that is termed as DDoS attacks, are not directly related to use of cloud computing, but the issue still exists. These type of attacks are existing in the cloud computing and environment, and they increase in the organization's risk basically at the network level because of some increased use of resources external to the organization's network. Now for example, AWS basically had a DDoS attack and most of the services were unavailable for hours on AWS, but AWS has still not acknowledged that service interruption, and it was basically due to DDoS attack. So these were actually some sort of rumors, but it is not acknowledged by Amazon, so it is termed as a rumor. So while using infrastructure as a service, risk of a DDoS attack is not only external, it is also having internal issues also, specifically if it is internet facing. So there is also the risk of an internal DDoS attack through the portion of the infrastructure as a service provider's network that is used by the customers separate from the IaaS provider's corporate network. So there is a difference between these two networks. That is the internal network and the provider's corporate network. So internal non-routable network is a shared resource used by the customers for accesses to their non-public instances. Example is Amazon machine images, or that is termed as AMIs, as well as by the providers for management of its network and resources such as physical servers. So non-routable network is basically a shared resource and it is being used by the customers. Customers do access it for accessing the AMI, that is Amazon machine images, and also that is provided by the provider for management of its own network and resources like physical servers. Then let us see the fourth factor, that is replacing the established model of network zones and tiers with the domains. So establishing the isolation model of network zones and tiers no longer exist in the public infrastructure as a service and platform as a service clouds. So network security has relied on zones, a concept of zones such as intranet versus extranet and development versus production, and this is basically used to segregate the network traffic for improved security. So this model was based on exclusion. Only individual and systems in specific roles have access to specific zones. So the traditional model of network zones and tiers have been replaced in public computing environment with security groups, security domains or virtual data centers that have logical separation between the tiers but are less precise and afford less protection than the formally established models. So like for example, we have security groups features in AWS allow virtual machines basically to access each other's data using a virtual firewall that has the ability to filter traffic on IP addresses, specific addresses or a subnet, packet types like TCP, UDP or ICMP, and ports or a range of ports. So these can be basically blocked or they can be filtered basically by IP addresses. So domain names are used in various networking contexts and application specific naming and addressing purposes based on DNS, domain name services. Like for example, you have Google's App Engine provides a logical grouping of applications based on domain names such as mytestapp.test.mydomain.com and myprodapp.mydomain.com. So these are some of the domain names that are provided by Google App Engine for logical grouping of applications. The cloud computing model is basically separated by domains, and this provides a logical separation for addressing purposes only. So there is no longer any required physical separation as a test domain and production domain, and may very well depend on the physical server, or it could be hosted on the same physical server. So formal logical separation no longer exists as of today. So logical separation now is at the host level with both the domains running on the same physical server and being separated only logically by the VM monitors, that is the hypervisors. We focused about hypervisors in the earlier sessions. So let us see how network level mitigation basically happens. So the primary determination of risk level is whether the organization intends to use or is using public, private or a hybrid cloud. As told to you before that private clouds are comparatively more secure as compared to public cloud. So although some of the infrastructure as a service clouds offer virtual network zoning, they may not match with the internal private cloud environment that performs stateful inspection and other network security measures. So if organization is large enough to afford the resources of a private cloud, as I told you, risk will be decreased or reduced, assuming that a true private cloud that is internal to a specific network only. If it is exposed, then it becomes a public network and it attracts more of attacks from the external attackers. So in some cases, a private cloud located at a provider's facility can help meet the security requirement, but again it will still depend on the provider's capability and what maturity models are being used by the provider. So confidentiality risk is basically reduced by using encryption techniques as told to you, and specifically by using validated implementations of cryptography for specifically the data that is in transit mode. So secure digital signature make it more difficult, if not impossible, for someone to tamper the data, and this basically ensures data integrity. There are various digital signature techniques which we studied in the last class. Then availability problems basically at the network level are far more difficult to mitigate, specifically with the cloud computing environment, unless the organization is using a private cloud that is internal to the network topology. As I told you, using private clouds has a lot of benefits as compared to public cloud. So availability is also one of the factors. So even if the private cloud is private, that is non-shared, external network at a cloud provider's facility, users will face increased risk at the network level. So even if it is private, there are certain issues, specifically when it is in the going from the or coming from the external network at a cloud provider's facility. So a public cloud faces even more greater risk as compared to private cloud, specifically in terms of availability. So these are some of the security controls at the network level. Here you can see the threat outlook basically is preventive control, and the low, with exception of DDoS attack, specifically network access controlled by the suppliers, that is provided by the providers, example firewall, encryption of data in transit, example is SSL and IPsec. So if it is detective controls under the threat outlook, we basically have provider managed aggregation of security event logs, security incident and event management, or that is termed as SIEM, network based intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention system. So these are some of the controls basically for managing the security at the network level. So these are some of the assignments for today. Have a look at it. These are 7 marks questions and 4 marks questions specifically related to this topic and important from GQ exam point of view. This is my contact detail. If you have any query, you can contact me on this email ID. We are done for today. Thank you.